Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon.com platform, welcome to you. You guys will see there's a follow button either here in this corner or down below. You can click on that to stay connected with all of our programming we have here 6 days a week here on the Amazon platform. You will also see the book by our next guest. We're excited to welcome Bestselling author Lee Goldberg to our broadcast today. He's celebrating the brand new book, MALIBU Burning. You guys see it there. For those joining us on Amazon, you'll see it again either on the side or down below. Feel free to click that. We have both the Kindle edition and, of course, the hardcover like I have. For those that are tuning in on Facebook, on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, you guys will see a link that will bring you guys over to Amazon so you guys can be able to get it for yourself. We're going to talk to Lee not only about the new book, but also about what it's been like for him to be able to do work that he loves as a storyteller and to see the response. And, of course, the early response to the new book as well. Megan, hello to you on the Amazon platform. She says hello to you as well, Lee. Lee, thank you so much for being on with us. Really appreciate the time.
I'm thrilled to be here. If I wasn't talking to you, I'd have to be writing. So this is wonderful.
Well, look, we definitely want you writing because, you know, we as readers, we always have two things to say to you authors, Lee. One is really enjoyed the book and when's the next one coming out?
Oh, God, no, I feel the pressure. I got to go. Right. It's been great, Cyrus. Bye.
Well, Lee, this is, you have had some great conversations on the radio side. So first time actually talking face-to-face kind of here. Let's talk about this journey for you, though. I mean, the new book, as I mentioned, is MALIBU Burning. Our audience can see it there. What has it been like for you, Lee, to already see the way that people are responding to the new book?
It's been really gratifying because I'm always convinced that each book I write is going to expose me for the fraud that I know I am. This is the book that's going to kill my career. So whenever a book is embraced like this one, it's a thrill, but also it's a big relief. Big relief. Now I got to write another one, and that'll be the one that proves I'm a fraud, that I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Well, Lee, I think the thing about you is, and what readers have said, and I've noticed it because I'm one of those nerds slash hosts that will go in and read comments and read reviews of books that I enjoy to see what other people are thinking, is that they always know your books are going to be fast-paced, there's going to be a lot of action, but also memorable characters. And you definitely have given us that over the years. Have you always known that was part of what you wanted to do, Lee, to be able to write stories that people would enjoy?
Well, first I have to enjoy it myself. If I'm going to spend 5, 6, 7 months in this world with these people, I have to like it. I have to want to be there every day. I have to want them in my head all the time, even the quote unquote bad guys. So they need to be fully fleshed out, interesting characters to me, or I can't invest myself in them. And if I can't invest myself in them, how is a reader going to invest themselves in the characters? So that's very important to me. And I start with character first. I don't start with plot. Well, that's not true with MALIBU Burning, but in most cases, I start with character first, and the plot comes from that. So I fall in love with the characters first, and then the story comes.
We're going to get more into the plot from MALIBU Burning because you did say something interesting that our audience that have read you will know about when it comes to this particular book. I want to go to something you just said because I had just mentioned to Lee before we went live here. I don't script this show, but he made a comment during our last conversation on the radio show that was really interesting to me that I wanted to dive into for our Amazon audience. Because for you guys here on Amazon, of course, you can look at the other books that Lee have been able to write, of course. And one thing you'll know about Lee is that he has very strong characters, both the protagonist and the antagonist. But you said something interestingly when it came to the way we as readers sometimes perceive bad guys. Talk to us a little bit about how you see that a little bit different when it comes to the characters you create.
I don't think about bad guys or good guys. I just think of characters. No, I'll use this term lightly, bad guy. The bad guy doesn't think of himself as a bad guy. He thinks of himself as the hero of his own story. He sees himself as just trying to survive, to do right by his family and himself, and overcome the obstacles that he faces to reach the goals that he has. They're people, and they have good sides and bad sides. They're good. They're nice and they're bad. They're funny and they're not. They have people they love and they have people that love them. You have to see them as fully rounded characters. They can't just be about the whoa, I'm going to take over the world, or they're Marvel bad guys. They're cartoon characters. The bad guys that, or I like the phrase you just used, antagonists. The antagonists in my books have things they are doing besides waiting for the detective to come catch them. They have things they are doing besides their criminal pursuits. They are paying their mortgages. They're taking their kids to school. They're pursuing the love of a beautiful woman, whatever. They have other things going on. They're going to get groceries. They have lives. And it's important for me to think about in every scene, when my detective goes to visit the antagonist, what was my antagonist setting out to do right then and there? What does my antagonist have planned for the day? And how is the detective getting in the way of that? What is my antagonist's goal as the hero of his own story? And how is my hero the antagonist in the antagonist story? I'm getting all knotted up there, but you see what I'm going for. I don't want just black hats and white hats. I want characters.
And I think what makes that so fascinating, especially when we talk about a book like Malibu Burning, Lee, is that these characters are exactly what you said. I referenced in our previous conversation the conversation you had between the characters Danny and Logan in the book, and I love the fact that you have these individuals who are having a conversation that is relatable to a lot of people. But of course, you have someone like Danny who gives us this line: "I'm a professional con man. I know a con when I see one." And it's really interesting thinking about that in the conversation with Logan. What was it like for you? Let's just take those two characters. What was it like for you kind of creating the story of Logan and how he got to where he was?
Well, I don't want to give too much away in the book, but Danny Cole is a con man and a thief who pulls off a terrific con perfectly at the beginning of the book, and then gets undermined by the fact he's also a nice guy. He doesn't want innocent people to get hurt, that he has a moral code. Even though he's causing a lot of people a great deal of harm, he still doesn't want innocent people to get hurt. And that's his failing in a way. And Logan is a guy with a drug habit who has a girlfriend and a family and who commits a lot of crimes to support that drug habit. And he and Danny meet in the convict firefighter program. And Logan discovers something that gives him a passion, and that's fighting fires. And the convict firefighting program promises convicts that they are going to have a career as professional firefighters when they get out. But that's a lie. It's a con. It's a trick. It's the penal system being really cruel to convicts to get them to risk their lives for free fighting wildfires. The fact is, California would have to spend billions of dollars more if they had to pay these firefighters to work on these wildfires. So what I'm trying to show with these two characters is, yes, we're about to see them do something very bad, something criminal, something wrong. Yet they aren't entirely bad people. They have problems and crises and failings that we can all understand because we have them ourselves. And I'm not the only guy. I didn't invent this. I mean, Elmore Leonard does it beautifully. Larry McMurtry does it beautifully. There are a lot of writers out there who do this, and I admire them. I think it's more realistic and more compelling if your bad guys are every bit as rich as your good guys. And again, I'm using those terms very lightly.
Yeah. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we have the two characters, Sharp and Walker. I want to get into that. I want to say hello to you, Amazon customer on the Amazon platform. Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. For those who are just tuning in, you all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon. I'm speaking with best-selling author Lee Goldberg today. His first time on with us on this broadcast, but you have been able to hear him in my interviews on Amazon Music. We're talking about his career, but also his brand new book that's out now on Amazon. You guys can see it down in the carousel, that being Malibu Burning. So let's talk about Sharp and Walker for a second, because here are individuals who are just as intent to do what they believe to be the right and just thing, even in the face of some pretty difficult circumstances. This is, of course, we can kind of tell that these are going to be some characters we're going to get used to being able to see, Lee, but how did they come about for you?
Well, I've been doing the Eve Ronin police procedurals for quite some time, and I really enjoy doing them. And I think to some readers, that's what I'm particularly known for, is the police procedurals. But I also have done a lot of big heist novels on a much bigger stage, international stage, not just in my Ian Ludlow thrillers, but the 5 books I did with Janet Ivanovich. And I found myself wanting to go back to telling those kind of stories. But I didn't want to leave the police procedural entirely behind either. So I thought, what if I created a hybrid? What if I could do a big in scope, over-the-top popcorn movie kind of heist adventure, and also a really stripped down, straightforward police procedural, but in a different way, maybe without the kind of cops we're used to seeing. So in this case, I have 2 arson investigators, a seasoned arson investigator who is something of the Sherlock Holmes of arson investigators. Maybe looks a little bit like Walter Matthau. He's got this withered, rumpled face, and he's not particularly loved, but he's great at what he does. And his new partner, Andrew Walker, a U.S. Marshal who loved being a U.S. Marshal, but left doing it because it was too dangerous and it was putting his marriage at risk. And he's about to become a father, and his wife wants him to be a home for the kid. Walker takes this job because he thinks it's going to be essentially a desk job, but it's not. And he learns about arson investigation as we, the readers, learn about it too. It's a whole different way of approaching crime, a whole different way of investigating crime. So what Malibu Burning is it's a genre-crossing book. It's a police procedural and a big, over-the-top heist caper thriller that converge and then become something entirely different. I apologize. My phone is by thousands of fans calling. I'll just stick the phone in a drawer. It's either a fan or it's a bill collector. They like to call during interviews.
Hey, this is what happens when we're live. Anything can happen. Tracy, hello to you on the Facebook side. Appreciate you guys being with us, and also you guys over there on YouTube. Appreciate you guys being up with us as well. If you guys have any questions or comments for Lee, you can put those in too. We'll be glad to be able to bring those up for Lee as well. I'm so glad you mentioned about the layers of this. I'm one of these readers who, that's how I end up with the perfect job, Lee, is that I get to read for a living, talk to authors like you for a living, and to overanalyze everything.
Oh no, you don't have the perfect job. I remember my daughter, when she was about 8 or 9 years old, finally dawned on her, what does Dad do? And I told her, well, you know, those stories you read and the TV shows and movies you watch, I write those stories. I tell stories. And she looked at me in shock. She said, you mean you get paid to just sit there and pretend? And I said, yes. And you can make a living at that? I went, yeah. She said, you have the greatest job in the world. And she's right. I just sit here making stuff up and people pay me for that. That's a twisted reality I live in.
Well, we need more of that twisted reality these days, Lee, for sure. And that goes into this book, because one of the things I did not talk to you about on the radio side, because I knew we were going to have another conversation, is that things aren't always as they appear. Because as you just laid out, I mean, on the surface, it looks like one thing is happening in this book when it comes to the wildfires. But of course, we're able to see there are layers even to that, as there are layers to the characters. I'm glad you mentioned that about the antagonists too, that they are not just people who are rotten people. They have, you know, good qualities with them too, who've made choices. I think a big part of this book is about that. Because even when it comes to the quote unquote good guys, Lee, they have to make choices that you know, can definitely put them in some serious situations. What was that like for you to play with? That really the actions of both the protagonist and the antagonist both have consequences.
Well, all actions have consequences. All actions create conflict. You get in the way of other people's goals and create obstacles for yourself and for others. We talked about this on your radio show yesterday. You're talking about some of the themes you see in the book and in other books that I've written. I'm not aware of those themes when I'm writing. They sometimes are very obvious to me later when guys like you point them out to me, or when I'm proofing the galley. I think if you really absorb the story and you really absorb the characters and you think about what they're about and what they want, unconsciously a theme or a message comes through that you may not be intending, but gets underscored and reinforced with every scene and encounter. And that's just good storytelling. I know authors who actually plot that out. I don't plot out the thematic through line of a story or the characters. I hope the thematic side of it will come through. But yes, you're right. I think the two timelines in this book bring out in a very clear way that the choices we make along the way have profound impacts on what our lives will be, and also reflect on who we are as individuals. In some ways, we're doomed, not because of fate, but because we keep making the same choices for the same reasons.
Yeah, I think that is such a great point. And I think, you know, for readers who are reading Malibu Burning and they kind of get into the story itself, there are other characters, of course, that we meet, that we kind of see the roles that they're able to play. Were there surprises for you, Lee, as the story unfolded? Because you mentioned, of course, the way some storytellers, some authors do kind of plot out their stories. Were there things that surprised you the way that they unfolded?
Well, I'm a plotter. I plot out my stories. I know exactly where I'm going, especially in a mystery. I know what the clues are and how my detectives are going to solve the crime. And if I'm putting together a heist, I know what all the moving pieces are of the heist and pretty much how they'll go wrong. But I'm always surprising myself. I call my outlines living outlines because I'm rewriting my outlines up until about 2 weeks before I finish the book. because new things will occur to me while I'm writing, and then, oh God, I got to adjust the outline to take into account this new discovery I just made about the characters, or a new idea I had about a complication in the heist, or whatever. I leave room to discover stuff, and I'm open to it. It doesn't mean everything I discover I keep. Sometimes I'll start writing and something will come to me, and I'll veer away from the outline, and I'll realize I've gone down a rabbit hole or it just doesn't pay off, and it's going to undermine the rest of my book, and I have to cut it. That's pretty brutal. I have to do a lot of cutting sometimes, but I also want my characters to have a chance to live and breathe. So I allow myself the opportunity to be surprised and to try new things along the way. I don't stick slavishly to my outline.
Well, I think, for readers, as I mentioned, as the reviews are already coming in for a book like this, I mean, there's a lot of them, as you know, already from Malibu Burning.
I don't read them.
Oh, you don't? Oh, no, you know what? This is interesting. So you don't read reviews?
My wife does. Sometimes she'll say something out loud to me, you're not going to believe this great review you got, or what an idiot who posted this one. But I think there's a danger there are two ways it's a danger. One, you start writing to please people who may only reflect a small percentage of your actual readership. You also can end up, believing the BS that you walk on water and you're so wonderful, or start being cut down by the negative stuff and lose your confidence. So I just don't think there's an upside in reading all those reader reviews. But my publisher does, and other people do, and they give me an overall temperature of what the reviews are. And I do look at, okay, I've got 10,000 reviews on Malibu Burning, and 70% of them are 5-star, and 25% of them are 4-star. Okay, so I get the temperature there. I feel pretty good about it. If I really want to torture myself, I'll go down to see what the 1-star guy said. But no, I don't. I try not to read the reader reviews. It's just there's no winning in doing that.
I want to stay with that for just one more question, Lee, before I talk about the way the majority of our audience is watching us with the social media. Is that something that has always been true in your career, or just as time has gone on in your career?
As time has gone on.
Okay.
I had to learn this the hard way. I did a series years ago, TV series called Sequest. It starred Roy Scheider as the captain of a giant phallic submarine in the future. One of the characters was a talking dolphin. And the fans were very, very loud and demanding. And I made the mistake of interacting with them. And it was just time consuming, and it was awful. And in fact, I ended up writing a book about that experience called Dead Space, about a TV show that's being harassed by fans, and the fans are homicidal when they don't get what they want. It's not a good idea. And granted, you need fans to keep your TV show going. You need readers to keep your books selling. But I think you can become too involved and get too far into fan service. And then your TV shows, your books just look like they're catering to a small niche rather than the wide audience. Yeah. So you have to be very careful.
That's fair. That's fair enough. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. Last thing I want to talk to you about is the reach that you've been able to have, especially thanks to new media, thanks to social media. Like, as I mentioned, we do have the Amazon Live audience. The majority of our audience is watching us there, but I would say half at this point, just looking at it here, we have YouTube, we have Facebook. Of course, we're also on Twitter as well, LinkedIn. What has that been like?
I was told to be on Tinder too. We're not on Tinder?
We're not. Well, I'm not. I mean, I'm not saying anyone else shouldn't be, but I'm not personally there.
I was going to be live on Tinder.
You know what? I think I may have said Twitter, and you may have misunderstood me. I think that's what
it is. When you get to be my age,
See, Lee, you're trying to catch me. See, you're trying to catch me. but no. So, what has that been like for you in your career, Lee, to see the role of social media and the influence of social media? Talking about fans, the influence that social media has on getting the word out about books like yours.
Well, it's changed the way authors promote themselves. You have to have a social media presence, and that doesn't mean you should be on social media constantly promoting your work. Now, when I have a new book out, that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm constantly sharing reviews and links to interviews like this one. But in between books, I'm not promoting myself. I'm just talking about what I'm watching, what barbecue I'm eating, what trips I'm taking. I'm giving readers and viewers an opportunity to know something about me. And to some degree, I think it makes the reader feel as if you're their friend, as if they know
Yeah.
you. When they're buying your book, they're not buying a stranger's book. They're buying their friend Lee's book. And it's led to some creepy encounters at book signings and stuff, because fans will come up to me and go, Lee, I really enjoyed your new, but how do I phrase this? There's a sense of intimacy that they seem to have with me that I don't have with them. Like, they seem disappointed I don't recognize them, even though they recognized me. So it can make for some slightly uncomfortable real life interactions. But I get it, because I'm also a fan. And I love the fact that if I read a good book, I can send a note to the author and get a response. Or if I have a question about how a TV show was produced or something that happened, I can send a note to the producer and get something right back. There's now an intimacy between audience and writer that never existed before. When I was a kid, I used to write fan letters to authors and hope that someday, first, they'd get them and that maybe they'd respond. Now the response can be almost instantaneous. The access we have to the people who are entertaining us and helping us escape from our daily lives is wonderful. So I see both sides of it. So I maintain a social media presence that shows a part of my life. I mean, I'm careful. I don't reveal intimate details of my life or too much about my family, but enough so that readers get a sense of who I am and how I look at the world and how that may inform the books of mine that they're reading. So I'm not just a name on the cover of a book. I'm that guy who I interact with every so often on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook.
There we go. Well, we definitely appreciate that, Lee, as I appreciate this conversation, our first face-to-face conversation. And I'm glad it's about this book. It definitely is a page turner. For those who are joining us live, today is National Buy a Book Day. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to be able to get Malibu Burning by Lee Goldberg. You can click it right now on Amazon. Some of you have already done it there, either the print edition or you can get the Kindle edition there. It's worth your time. You'll enjoy the read. You'll love the characters, and it really does keep your attention. For those who are joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, you guys will see the link that will bring you guys over to Amazon to be able to get the book for yourself. Lee, I really appreciate this.
I don't think it's National Buy a Book Day. I think it's National Buy 5 Books by One Author Day. You didn't get the memo from the Biden administration.
I must have saw the hashtag wrong.
Yes,
I was almost sure it said buy a book.
No, buy 5 books by one author today. Preferably Jewish, preferably with a picture of Ultraman on his closet door. Wrong way. There we go.
I tell you what, I'm going to check my calendar. But in the meantime, we do want you guys to get Malibu Burning so you guys can be able to enjoy it and tell your friends about it. Maybe you have 4 friends you can be able to tell about it.
There you go.
Lee, I really have enjoyed this. How can I stay connected with you, Lee?
I'm so hard to find. LeeGoldberg.com, Lee Goldberg on Twitter, Lee Goldberg on Facebook, Lee Goldberg just about everywhere. In fact, I'm outside your door right now.
Now see, Lee. You were just talking about not getting too close and personal.
That's true. That's true.
Diana Willis on LinkedIn says, buy a book for 4 free. Okay, Diana, so you can say that. I'm going to put your comment on the screen, Diana. So Diana says, buy a book for 4 free.
She's my new favorite reader. Thank you, Diana.
I think that is a great thing. So thanks for joining us over there on LinkedIn as well. Appreciate you. Hope you enjoyed the program. Lee, I really enjoyed this. Looking forward to having you back again.
I look forward to being back again.
All right. And we thank you, our audience, for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. Again, if you guys are new to us on the Amazon platform, make sure you guys hit that follow button. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. Again, we have programming here 6 days a week here on Amazon. Also, make sure you guys do get Lee's book. And if you want to get it for a friend as well, that's more than okay as well. Again, Malibu Burning is the new book from Lee Goldberg. So make sure you guys get it as well. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.